Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.
This is Chris from Deus Ex Machina, and I am with
Dave from Rampant Wolf Games.
And we've just dated this video by saying Merry Christmas. Well, it should be pretty obvious.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And we're going to start a series of retrospectives of the year 2019. This is they say it's the end of the decade, but technicality would say that the actual beginning of the next decade begins with 2021.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well,
that's the reason why it's called 2001: A Space Odyssey and not 2000, because 2001 was the beginning, because there's no year zero.
Yeah, they had the same argument for when we graduated. We weren't the grad class of the new millennium because we were 2000. It was the next year was the grad class.
2000 had Y2K. 2000 had the problem with the which wasn't a problem.
No.
But yeah, this is not the end of a decade. Technically, the end of the decade is next, because that's just how math works. But for the heck of it, have you been seeing the posts I've been...
some of them.
Yeah, going through the year and seeing the best games per year, you go, oh my god, that game came out 10 years ago. And you realize how old some titles are.
Yep.
So we are going to talk about the top 5 surprises. These are either games or events that happened in 2019 that surprised us.
Yes.
That shocked us. Good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Smashing scissors.
Yep.
He said we didn't spend 5 minutes doing it. Okay. So my number 5 pick is the rise and sudden lethargic response of Tapestry. Wingspan was a very, very big title. It's, as people would say, clearly the biggest title of 2019. Mm-hmm. Probably the most famous, if not the most infamous.
Infamous.
And then later in the year, after the almost January, February release, because it was distributed wide in March, but it was getting released in January. Later in the year, we got Tapestry, which is arguably a bigger budgeted game. It's a very expensive, painted miniatures and so forth. And there was a bunch of initial reviews. But unlike Wingspan, which generated this supply and demand, it was in demand, no one could get it, and it was on people's lips for the next 8 months. I don't hear anybody talking about Tapestry right now.
My wife talked about it once, and she was like, we should maybe get this. And I looked at it, and I'm just like, not for that price tag, I'm not.
Yeah, I think the reason why Wingspan was popular was the fact that initially it was supposed to be sold for about $45 to $50.
Yeah.
Now, of course, because it was in demand, people, like, I've seen prices as high as $80 for it.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely immoral. But
yeah,
Tapestry right off the block was going for a Scythe price point, going for $85.
$120.
Yeah, actually more expensive than Scythe, because Scythe you could snag Scythe for $85, $89.
Yeah, I think Tapestry right now is billing for $110.
Yeah, it looks pretty, and the game, and a lot of people just said it looks pretty, but this is not a $120 game.
Yeah, and that's my thing too, is that I looked at it and I'm just like, I got as far as pulling it up on the local game. Okay, not local. My usual website that I buy games for, and I looked at the price tag. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, even the local sites are going quite expensive.
Because part of me too is here's the thing. Rationale. It's like, first thing I'll do is like, look at the price tag. That'll determine whether I look further. Then I may look at the theme, and that'll determine whether I keep looking. But this one, it was like, ooh, price tag. And I'm like, okay, let's look at the theme. Ooh, theme. I'm like, nope,
the theme I don't mind. There's been some criticism about some elements of the gameplay. Mm-hmm. I don't have an issue with it. I know it hasn't been getting the glowing reviews of Wingspan, probably because Wingspan is a lot easier to play and Tapestry is a bit more complicated. But that being said, I think people just got turned off by the price point. I think they overshot themselves. Probably. If it was a miniature combat, you would be attributing to a new audience, and you wouldn't be worrying about it, because it's an empire civilization building game and is boasting this high production value.
It's an interesting thing you mentioned that. If you think about that, think about your engine builders and deck builders and stuff like that. They're a different style of player. They won't fork out $120 for a game.
No. Like I said, we're just talking about sales, and Gen 7 just popped up on a Black Friday sale. You bought it
long time ago.
And I bought it as well. It's wrapped, so my fiance has already forgotten about it. But the only reason why we got it is that it was going for like $50.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we would not normally pay that. And we are people that... There are a couple big budget games, but we have to kind of suss ourselves. We have to get the energy.
Yeah.
And Tapestry just wasn't triggering the, oh, that's totally worth the $120.
Yeah, I had that same reaction. Totally not one of my ones, but Catan Starfares, the new edition of Starfares. I looked at it, I'm like 110. I'm like, oh, I'm like, you're gonna have to really
No
sell me on
Catan.
that.
No Catan is worth 110.
Well, and so I watched.
Considering the basic version is mass produced for.
Well, and I watched Sam Healy's review of it. I'm like, you know what? All right, I'll pull the trigger on this one.
You did?
I did. It's on its way out. Should be here tomorrow.
So that's my number 5 pick. The rise and the tepid response to Tapestry. On to you for 5.
So my number 5 for surprise of 2019 was a game that I went into because I had a person quite heavily recommend it to me when she was here for her convention, and
Would this be Becca Scott?
yes,
Plug the name. Like, literally, we are friends with celebrities. Becca, oh dearie Becca, she came to his house, watched Game of Thrones with him. Yeah, she did. Take the win.
When she recommended it, she said, it was one of the best games ever. I'm like, and usually I don't buy a game based on someone's recommendation.
Becca says jump.
So I bought it, and then it sat on the shelf for the longest time. Honest to God. And so finally, when I'm like, okay, we're going to play this game. So we played it, and it was the most fun I've had in that style of game and theme that I actually left the room partway through the game. I'm like, I'll be right back. Went to computer. I'm like, let's order all the expansions.
What was it?
It was Western Legends.
Oh, this is when you got Western Legends.
Yes. Yeah. And that was my number 5.
Western Legends, I know why it's popular.
Yep.
I haven't gotten it, but I know why it's popular. And I know that if I was really behind the setting, I'd probably jump on it. And at some point, I probably will. It's one of those games it'll hit my collection eventually.
Yeah.
But that sandbox, open sandbox thing, that Gia, but Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what did it for me too. It's just like everybody else had their way of doing. We weren't all trying to do the same thing to accomplish winning the goal or winning the game. It was this guy could do whatever they wanted, this person did whatever they wanted, but we still achieved the same goal of trying to win the game.
Yeah.
So that was my number 5, Western Legends.
My number 4 pick is very much a personal surprise.
All right.
And that is the Games of Sandy Peterson.
Oh.
And I was surprised at how much they have dropped the ball regarding their Kickstarter. I've seen companies when they release their first Kickstarter, then they want to release their second, and they release their third, and they get a pattern going. Mm-hmm. But for a guy that's already got that inertia from the success of things like Cthulhu Wars and so forth, to do a game like Planet Apocalypse, hit the Kickstarter, raise $500,000, and then spend 2 years delaying it, and then despite that delaying, release 2 more Kickstarters, and then assume that they're going to be able to deliver those other titles. The last update from Planet Apocalypse would indicate it's probably going to be a mid-2020.
Yep.
So it's already looking like a 6-month delay because they are working on redoing some of the models. Mm-hmm. And remember, this thing was supposed to get delivered in March of last year. And it hasn't delivered. And not only that, but they don't even have proper prototypes yet. So it's unlikely I'm going to see this game until the spring, at the very least.
Yeah.
And the fact that he released another big budget Kickstarter and has released another one after that.
One of which I actually backed.
Yep, one of which you actually backed. And I'm just really surprised that they would drop the ball so badly on one and then expect us to follow through. Because I can't remember, the company who did Subterra, Into something. They had a controversy because they were having delays with Subterra. They had already started their second campaign. And that did okay. And he started a third one. Subterra still hadn't finished. And they received so much negative feedback, they canceled that Kickstarter and waited until Subterra had finished before they relaunched it. And the fact that they had to do that, and Sandy Peterson got away with launching a third campaign, even though Planet Apocalypse is months away from fulfilling, I was just really shocked. So that's my number. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
No.
I know you backed Hyperspace.
I did back Hyperspace. I can't remember what the last update I got from them was.
I'm also annoyed that they're like the other companies that they do an update every 30. Like, here's a month. Here's our updates. Here you go. Bye. See you in a month.
Yeah.
There have been campaigns that I backed 3 years ago. Every month they send out an update, and everyone just loses their minds and goes, "What's going on?" And then they don't answer. They don't comment.
Yeah.
They're like, "See you in a month."
Yeah, Flying Frog, Shadows of Brimstone, they're bad for that too.
Yeah. My updates on my campaign are usually like once a week or once every 2 weeks tops.
Yeah.
And so far, even though I'm behind a month already, it's not had any negative feedback.
I backed a game, but I didn't actually, like, I backed it for $1, but I didn't actually get it. And they have had the most communication I've ever seen, and that is Project Vril, Reichbusters.
Uh-huh.
They have a what's called What's Up Wednesday. Every Wednesday they have a post, like an update, and I'm just like, it got to the point where I was annoying. I was like, I didn't actually buy it. Go away. Stop sending me updates.
Onimaru, I get updates from Onimaru a lot, and I only back them for $1. Do you know what I don't see updates from?
What?
Madara. Because I backed them for $1, and I rarely ever see updates from them.
Yeah.
I get more auto updates from their pledge manager to complete my pledge manager than I get updates from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's So
that's your number 4.
Yeah.
So my number 4 was a game that I was hoping for more because it's set in HP Lovecraft University. It looked interesting, but when we played it, it fell flat. It was a very boring set collection game. It's still in my collection, but I don't think it's going to be holding on much longer. And that is Miskatonic University, the Restricted Collection.
I thought you liked Miskatonic University.
No, it was very boring.
Oh.
Yeah. And that was a disappointment for me. And that's why it's a surprise disappointment. Because it was just kind of one of those things. I was like, oh, hopefully this is good. Hopefully they don't screw up HP Lovecraft. But I'm just starting to realize that that's like the new zombie. Everybody was slapping zombies on for themes and stuff.
Yeah.
HP Lovecraft is the new thing to do.
That's public domain.
Yeah.
Right?
So
that's why I'm surprised we don't see 1,000 John Carter and Conan stuff, because those are all public domain. Same thing with Frankenstein. But Cthulhu, apparently, people are like, no, it's public domain. Go crazy.
Yeah. So that's my number 4. Miskatonic University Restricted Collection.
My number 3 is Wingspan. Specifically, it got released. It became a phenomenal hit. I don't think anyone was. I know that Stonemaier is extremely popular, and they produce some fantastic games. Some of my all-time favorite games, Viticulture and Scythe, are 2 of my favorite games. They would release Wingspan, and it would create that supply and demand. Jamie did a post about what had happened. We did an open letter where he basically pointed the finger at stores and a whole bunch of others. He pointed a finger to a lot of people as the reason why, that they couldn't anticipate, that they didn't have an accurate reading of how much they were going to need.
Sure.
Because the pre-orders were low, and then the game exploded, and everyone said, okay, now we need 10 more. And he's like, well, there aren't 10 more. I made just slightly more than the supply demand was. I have to now order a whole bunch, but it's not going to take a month to show up. At that point, the supply increased even further because now the supply chain increased demand, and you had to do a third and a fourth. And each one of those times, to the point that it's still somewhat difficult to get Wingspan, and they have already have their supplement out for it. Mm-hmm. And then I finally got to play, and I was like, oh, this is a fun game. And I was just like, it's a fun game. It's probably an 8 out of 10. But I'm looking and going like, it's almost like Gloomhaven, but Gloomhaven was more of a severe degree where it's like, I was expecting transcendence. Everyone was like, this is like the best. Of course, it's the most successful game. Therefore, it should be the best game of the year. And it is absolutely so not the best game of the year.
No.
It's a pretty game. It's got that nice dice tower, well-made dice. It's a very well-made game. It is too short. And I never feel if my engine gets up. It gets about 70% there. A good engine builder, you should be able to cook off just before the game ends. And Wingspan, it lets you get to about 70%, and then it just truncates. It just kind of cuts you off. Yep. And you always feel like, oh, Is that it? Can we just keep playing? Like, no, that's the game. And there are ways to play around with that, but I thought Wingspan was a good game. But is it the best game of the year? No. But it was the most successful. So that's my number.
See, I'm going to disagree on Wingspan, and here's my reason why. I'm glad it's 4 rounds because that's all I can stand of the game.
Yeah, well, you don't care for the game.
I don't care for the game.
I like the game, and I think it's too short.
And part of the thing, my biggest problem with that game is that without certain things being included, you could play that game without even talking to the other person at the table. And we did that.
There's not a lot of interaction.
And for me, that's the whole point of a board game. If I didn't want to have interaction with the people I'm with, then I'd play like a video game by myself on single player.
Yeah, but that's a difference. I mean, we were talking to my circle, and my circle very much likes, like we just did Dinosaur Island. Dinosaur Island, phase 3 and 4 is entirely within your board. But yeah, no,
there's interaction with that one.
There is some interaction. In fact, in 5 players, there's a lot of interaction, way more than 2. It's shocking how much interaction there is in 4 players. But still, at the end of the day, it isn't as much. It's not like you're literally going after people or stealing other people's resources. And in Wingspan, there is very little interaction. That was never a real critical, because that's just a style of game. It's just like some people like MOBAs, some people like MMOs, some people like loot and shoot.
Yeah. But for me, that's the thing that I find is that a game that could have such little interaction for me should not be rated that high, because for me, board games are supposed to be a social experiment, or experience.
Yeah, but I guess that's with my circle. My circle never needed the game to force interaction. We usually end up chatting up a storm anyway.
Yeah. So that's
my number 3 pick, Wingspan.
All right. So my number 3 pick for Surprises of 2013 is a game that and it's a re-release of a game, but it's a game that every time people talk about, best games of all time, they mention things like Pillars of the Earth, Caverna, all these other games where it's like, you've really got to try these games. And this one came out with an anniversary edition. I bought it, we played it, and I was like, that's it? It was so disappointing. And that's Stone Age. Yeah. We played Stone Age and I was just like,
it's like a 10-year-old game.
Yeah, but they released the anniversary edition this year.
Did they change anything?
Yeah, they added snow. Yeah.
They did a Carcassonne Winter Edition?
Yeah, they did a Carcassonne Winter Edition, basically. But they did add some new buildings that are snow-related.
My eyes twitching.
Yeah, but you can but it comes with double-sided tiles, so you can play it regular or snow. Yeah, that's pretty much my reaction after I played it. It was just kind of like, why is this game so popular? It is like, to me now, the Monopoly of board games. Like, it hurts when someone's just like, oh, Stone Age is so awesome. I'm like, oh, what's it not?
I own Stone Age. I've owned it for 2 years. I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, you're not missing much.
We'll get to it eventually. Will Wheaton liked it. I know there are certain mechanics that a lot of people really hate. There's like a rolling mechanic that everyone says you have to avoid.
Yeah. So that's my number 3, Stone Age 10th Anniversary Edition.
My number 2 is something that happened like recently, and most people go, that's a surprise? Like, how is that big news? How is that important to you? And I was like, I don't think you understand the implications of this. And that is the difficulty of Lord of the Rings, Journeys to Middle-earth.
Yes.
So, in my review for Lord of the Rings, Journeys to Middle-earth, I commented that there is one intrinsic problem that that has infected this game, that is permeating gaming as a whole. And that is, in cooperative gaming, they make the default difficulty too high. Mm-hmm. And they don't give you the capabilities to properly lower the difficulty without going online and finding a homebrew alteration. And it's very frustrating because it seems like you feel stupid, that you just wish you could have a more couch experience instead of just being stressed and tense.
Or losing all the time.
Or the disappointment of losing all the time. Mm-hmm. And which is weird because in retrospect they also have a game. They have Matches of Madness 2nd Edition, which I have a higher win rate with.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why Journeys is so much more difficult, despite that it doesn't seem to have the encroaching depression of nightmares. Would you would imagine that Mansions of Madness would be more difficult, but Journeys is more difficult. And the fact that they announced an update to the program, which you can do thanks to the app integration, they can just push an update that has added an adventure difficulty, which greatly lowers the starting adventure and the starting difficulty allows you to play the game as a more exploration, to explore and have more adventures within Journeys in Middle Earth without feeling the encroachment of the end game. And the fact that the game had to come out for about 10 months before they realized that this was a problem. I don't know if I know that Tom's review didn't mention it. There isn't a lot of comments online. My review, I spent 5 minutes ranting about how the base difficulty is too high and that you can't journey through Middle Earth and Journeys Middle Earth. It's more like racing through Middle Earth.
Yes.
And the fact that they've now pushed an update, which went online a week ago, third week of December, which offers an adventure mode that makes it a lot easier to play the game, is a shockingly humble moment in a game community where designers are absolutely resistant to admit that they made a mistake. So I am shocked. It was almost like when Alien Isolation came out. It had 3 difficulties, and everyone said, if you want to have fun, play it on the lowest difficulty, because the upper difficulties will make you smash your screen. And it was about a week after the release, they pushed an update which released an extremely easy difficulty and an extremely hard difficulty, because they realized they wanted to make the game more accessible and people weren't enjoying the medium difficulty. And that's it. The fact that The Lord of the Rings pushed out a lower difficulty, it was actually my number 2 most shocking moment. I was literally, I had to tell Nicole, we were like, oh my God, we got to play this game again right now. And that is my number 2 pick.
All right, my number 2 pick of surprises for 2019 was a game that I think you might have raved about because you are like the author. The wife loves the author, and he's fairly well known for taking abandoned franchises and finishing them off. And I went online and watched a bunch of reviews. I'm like, okay, this looks like it should be good. But it does touch on that stupid trope, where because it's a cooperative game, it's got to be super hard. And that is The Reckoners.
Oh! And no, I'm not a fan of the author.
We played the... Did you play
I played it with you.
Yes. So yeah, we played the game. We died so quick, and I was just like, huh. Really?
That quickly, huh?
That quickly, and it was just like, well, let's try it again. We died again.
Yeah,
that quickly. What the is going on? And that pisses me off. I'm sorry. I'm going to rant here for a second. Why does a game need to be that hard because it's a co-op game? There's no good judge.
Dave, it's because the community has a group of people that absolutely love and demand and say, that game isn't really that difficult. It's just you.
Yeah, you know what? Those are called grognards. I'm sorry. I really am. I'm really sorry.
Really? That's a name?
Yeah, that's grognards, apparently. Yeah, it's actually meant for the war gamer guys, but it's almost the same mentality. The guys who want to take out a tape measure and measure and be like, no, sorry, man. My mini's not in your range of your gun because it's a millimeter out too far. I don't fucking care. Okay? I want to play a game. And you know what the whole point of a game? It's supposed to be fun. They've removed the fun from board gaming.
Yeah. When you make a cooperative game so difficult that it becomes work.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I don't understand is why have they've forgotten that the fact that this is supposed to be entertainment, not edutainment. I'm not here to be educated on how to play the game. You designed it. No. Play test your games more, or realize that, yeah, we'll make it this level, and you have a pretty good chance of winning the entire game. So I can introduce it to my son. But if I want to sit down and play it, guess what? That's rated adult level. That's medium or hard. We do it for everything else.
A friend of mine said it perfectly. He said, the problem is that the designers build the game.
Yes.
They know exactly what needs to get done to win it, and therefore they play the game at a difficulty. Like, okay, we're winning 50% of the time.
Yep.
Now, they don't fully comprehend that when you pass it to somebody who has no idea, that 50-50 turns into about 90-10 or 80-20, and they don't care. They push it out and say, oh, that's fine. And they also believe that the market wants this, and they don't.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, like, remember Ghost Stories being
Yep.
this famous difficulty? There's a new game that uses the exact same engine,
Oh God.
and it's easier. They've lowered the difficulty of
Oh,
it
okay.
because they know perfectly well that they'll not sell a single copy of a game that's exactly like Ghost Stories because they're starting to learn. But there's this intractable belief that is ingrained from 5 years ago that games are trying to one up each other in difficulty.
Yeah.
It hit its peak about 3 years ago when they were just adding random number generators to what should be an automatic success because they want you to have a more difficult, frustrating experience.
Yeah, and that's my problem with that one. And the components are amazing. The production value is amazing. The game,
Oh yeah, game craze is. I was surprised too because once we played it, I was like that is $120 game and that's a $40 game and a $120 bag.
yeah, I don't think it was 120, but it's up there.
It gets up there.
And that was the part that, again, is most disappointing for me. Is like, and everyone raves about it. I was like, why? Why? The whole point of board games when they were designed, Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers, your Monopoly, your Sorries, all that stuff was to get kids doing something other than smashing windows and slashing tires. That game makes me want to go smash some windows and slash some tires.
There's a game called Apocalypse Chaos, which I love, which is mechanically kind of similar, and they were able to accomplish it more fun. It's an easier game for $40.
Yeah.
So that's just yeah.
So that's my number 2, Reckoners.
All right, number 1. So Smashing Nature on this 50/50.
All right. My number 1 surprise of 2019. The reason why this one is a surprise is because I passed on this series, I guess you will say, or this franchise. I've passed on this franchise for the longest time because of the story matter, and I was just like, I don't care anymore. It is so overdone. Let's do with zombies.
Oh, you're going to talk about Zombicide.
I'm going to talk about Zombicide Invader because that was my first entrance into Zombicide, and we played.
You have them all now.
I have them all now.
I can see them behind the camera.
And the reason for that was because we played it, the wife loved it, my parents played it, they enjoyed it, my friends, we played it, they're just like, this isn't too bad.
It also fixes a lot of the problems with the previous games.
And that was the thing, like, and
I'm
so,
surprised you went and bought back the earlier ones because I heard the earlier ones are mechanically more flawed.
yes, but they fixed that with the second edition. You can integrate all your original components, so you don't lose anything.
Okay.
But for me, it was just like, I shied away from it because, like, oh, great, zombies, yay. I don't care. But then when I played this one set in space, it was just like, oh, I got the mechanics in this game are pretty sound. This isn't that hard.
Now, how would you compare it to what the hell's it called?
You're looking for Galaxy Defenders?
Yeah.
Galaxy Defenders is more of an RPG.
Oh, okay.
This is more of just a combat, slap it down, let's...
And it's cooperative, right?
Yeah, it's cooperative, straight up cooperative. And so for me, it's something that I can pick up and I can teach my son once he's old enough to understand and talk. Fairly quickly, I can teach him that game, and he will enjoy it, and then I can slowly break him into other board games. It will be my monopoly of dungeon crawlers, basically. And there's nothing wrong with that, because a good, easy to pick up, easy to teach game is not a bad thing. Sometimes you're just tired, work sucks, it's been a slog, you pull out some Zombicide, it's like, this isn't a real thinky game, this is just a, let's just kill some stuff.
Yeah. It's
And
the
everyone has
Michael
fun.
Bay of board games.
Yeah, it's the Michael Bay of board games, and you know what, that's not a bad thing all the time, but...
Six Underground is such a piece of crap. The first 20 minutes is amazing, because it's just a 20-minute car chase, and then the plot happens, and you're like, the only reason why I'm watching this is that Ryan Reynolds is obviously improvising, and he just doesn't care what the story's saying. Anyway, go on.
No, that was it. That's my number one, is Zombicide Invader. Finally hit the high point of actually what Zombicide should be, and I actually noticed that now they're trying to basically backdate all their stuff to bring it up to the same level as Zombicide Invader.
They finally figured it out.
They finally got they finally got their mojo, because when they redid Zombicide second edition, all of the components and all of the rules are almost carbon copy for Invader, and it's just like, You guys finally got
Finally cracked the code.
they finally hit season 3 of their series, right?
Yeah, season 3. It's the season 3 of Deep Space Nine and Star Trek: Next Generation.
Exactly. So that's my number 1, Zombicide Invader.
My number 1 is not nearly as ranty. My number 1 is going to surprise you because it's Madara.
Yeah.
I am amazed this thing even got sent out. A 4-year campaign without a mass riot, and then they deliver, and then they launch another right on the heels, and then they raise $2.5 million.
I was pretty floored with
nuts.
it. Yeah,
I mean, it's such an expensive Kickstarter. You get the core version, and then you get the trilogy. They've kickstarted both because obviously they've been working on 2 and 3 because they're like, you know what, we're just not going to bother releasing 2 and then do a 3. We're just going to go.
No, it was always supposed to be a trilogy.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying is, I'm surprised they didn't just release Part 2 as a Kickstarter.
Yeah,
and then 2 years from now, release a Part 3.
I agree. I don't know why but yeah, I think they wanted to build on the fact that. You know, it took them 4 years to get this one out, but
everyone is enjoying what they received.
Exactly.
And the fact that, like I said, there wasn't a mass riot, that the game did get delivered, and then they ran out of the Kickstarter in July that made $2 million. I'm like, how did they escape that vilification that people have?
And the answer for that one is they did communicate a lot.
Yeah.
And when they took 4 years to deliver, the amount of stuff that was included and the quality of the game is what should have been 4 years of development.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't get it, and you're just like, really? That's 4 years worth of development? Goddamn. So, I think they earned their second chance. And because, honestly, when all the reviewers picked it up, and we're just like, holy crap, this is a lot of game.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And it is something that we haven't seen before. It is a narrative-driven game.
Narrative-driven, anime-inspired.
Yeah.
Like I said, if it wasn't for its price, because I have it on the Pledge Manager, I could get it any time, and it's probably going to be a long time before they close it, I would probably get it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm at number 5. Tapestry number...
Yep, carry on.
Number 5 is the rise in tempo response of Tapestry. Number 4 is the delays of Sandy Peterson. Number 3 is Wingspan. Number 2 is the difficulty of Lord of the Rings actually dropping. And number 1 is the fact that Madara actually pulled it off.
My number 5 is Western Legends actually being a decent game. Number 4 is the disappointment of Miskatonic University, the Restricted Collection. Number 3 is the disappointment of Stone Age Anniversary 10th Edition. It's not that fun. Number 2 is... It's almost the same statement. The disappointment of the Reckoners.
Yeah.
It's not that fun. Number 1 was the overwhelming success of Zombicide Invader, and that I couldn't believe I had ignored this franchise as long as I did.
Well, because you were playing Shadows of Brimstone.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Anyway, I have been Chris.
And I've been Dave.
And remember,
the rules are just a suggestion. Play the game how you want to play it. Yes! Boom!